Marco Beltrami, composer of The Homesman. You're working in a genre that is as old as cinema itself. How do you bring something new and original to this Western?
Well, um, I didn't really conceive of it as a Western. I'm a huge fan of Westerns, by the way, and I guess I sort of think every movie I do is a Western, but this one really wasn't. I don't know if it really fits the format of a Western. And I was mainly just scoring the picture that I saw and working with Tommy. So, I don't know if there was a particular format that I was aware of or trying to consciously avoid or do something similar to.
Right. Well, we'll talk a bit about this is a non-traditional kind of story set out in the Old West, as it were, but from the perspective of a woman, a frontier woman.
Yeah.
So just start from there. How did that influence what you did?
So, I mean, the first thing that struck me about this is that it's well, a few things. First of all, it's really an austere landscape visually. You have heaven and earth. You have a horizon line between that, and that was my inspiration as much as anything. And then you have the story of these women that they're settling on the plains, and they're going crazy because of a variety of reasons of sickness of their kids and crop failure and loneliness, and it's all to me summarized by the character of the wind. The wind is ever present on the prairie, and sometimes to extreme circumstances, and they had dust bowls and all kinds of events. So to me, the wind was the one factor that summarized their plight, and if there was a way to somehow characterize that musically and make that a musical element in the score, that's what inspired me originally. So that's what I tried to do, and everything else that came out of it, and there's a lot of other things that came out of it, are sort of a product of that.
Right. I want to talk about the opening of the film, the music that plays over the opening credits. It feels very much like it could have come straight out of a John Ford movie, and after which you begin to sort of subvert and play around with what you were just talking about. Was that intentional on your part, or was that just?
I mean, one of the first conversations that we had was that Tommy wanted to open this up not forecasting so much the events that are going to be taking place and everything, but the idyllic setting of the frontier and why people went there in the first place, and the beautiful surroundings and environment and nature. And for me, the first thing I had written, actually before even experimenting with the wind, was they were on set, and in the script there's some lines of verse that need to be set to music in a very traditional way. So I wrote a melody that Hilary Swank's character, Mary B. Cuddy, would sing, and that melody so happened I thought would be appropriate for her as a theme because of its simplicity, and because it sort of summarizes Mary B's optimism with all this bad stuff that's happening, always perennially positive that everything is going to be good, and she's there by the grace of God, and it's everything will be taken care of. So that theme was to represent her optimism and her optimistic spirit, and that plays throughout the film in different contexts.
Well, talk a bit about the music you wrote for Tommy Lee Jones's character. Where did you start from there?
Well, for him, he actually he sings something. It's a song called "Weevily Wheat," which is an old standard song, and I tried to use elements of that melody as well in various scenes. There's a few where his facade house is blown up, which is early on, and then later on when he's traveling with Mary B. and she takes him back to her house, and they spend one night there. So I integrated some elements of that Weevily Wheat theme into those scenes. And so that was melodic too. But for the most part, it was like almost like not two scores, but there's elements of the very untamed, wind-inspired sonic landscape stuff, and then there's the more melodic material as well that we used.
Right. Now talk a bit about working with Tommy Lee Jones. He's, of course, a very well-known actor who's directed, I think this is his third or fourth film.
Yeah, third movie that we've done together.
Right.
And I think it's very different than working with other people. His approach is one of strictly creativity and innovation. For my end of it, he's not. He wasn't concerned with me following any particular temp music or anything they had used for screening purposes, which is often the case in on many of the movies that I do and that everybody does. So once we started, me and Buck, who works here with me, we started experimenting with Aeolian harps, and then when we built this outdoor piano, and we started working with recording the instruments outside and doing a lot of things that you'd never even have the ability to do in a more traditional Hollywood movie, just because I think it would make people nervous that you were spending so much time doing this and not actually coming up with score elements. And also the nature of it, I think, is a little unpredictable. And I can talk more about that, but he was very encouraging. He was excited by the process. He was really inspiring to be around. He would come up to my studio every couple of weeks, and I'd play him ideas and things we were working on. And Buck was creating these harmonic guitars that again, they're instruments that we created for this film. It was a whole process that I've really never done before in any other film.
Right. Could you talk a bit more about that unpredictability of not working off of temp music, which is not something that's normally done in Hollywood films, and how that sort of affected your work on this one?
Yeah, I mean, right. So oftentimes the score will have, or the film, as you're working on it, because you sometimes come on board after they've shot the film, even though on this I started, just when he was writing the script. He sent me early versions of the script. But, normally as they're editing, they need something to show viewers or producers or whoever is viewing the movie at the time. Sometimes they do test screenings. And so they need music for that. But he didn't burden me at all with, this is what we found is working in our temp or anything. In fact, as far as I know, I don't even know if they had a temp score. So from that standpoint, it was all starting from ground zero, from the concept. And the concept was this melodic idea that I had, as well as the this notion of exploring wind harps Aeolian harps. They're, we started with little something small like this big that you put in the window, and when the wind would blow, you could tune the strings on it and get different sonorities. And then as that we found that was successful, we decided to take an old piano, because Mary B is always talking about music, how music's important to her, and how she would love to have a piano, and she's ordered a melodeon from back east. And so we thought it might be neat to have not a piano in a nice warm studio that's been engineered for acoustical perfection, but more almost like an echo of a piano. And so we took this piano, we put it up on this storage tank here outside of the studio. We're sort of up here in the mountains, and we strung the piano wires 175 feet up the hill to these water tanks. So you can play the piano, and the sound travels through the wires, and you can put microphones in the water tanks, and the sound that you hear in the beginning of the movie that you mentioned, it's actually just that. There's no processing. It's just the sound of the piano being recorded through these water tanks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and in fact, everything in this movie, there's no, it's all the sounds of the things we recorded. There's no extra processing. And then the other thing is, when when we recorded this, which was over a year ago now, but it was around this time of year, and the Santa Ana winds would blow, and when they did, it would make those strings resonate, and you could tune the strings and literally capture the wind and record the wind and be able to tune it and make it a musical instrument. And we were really surprised at how much. I mean, you could hear the piano singing from like up to a mile away down the canyon. I think much to the surprise of our neighbors, but it was a neat experiment.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us, and congratulations on the film.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.